So we are halfway through December almost, and I'm wondering, have you made your list yet? And I don't mean your holiday gift list or your to-do list. What I mean is, have you given some thought to what you accomplished this year with your photos and let that guide you to what you still want to accomplish or need to achieve in the coming year? I really think it is easy to start to feel like we aren't creating what we envision with our photos. We get down on ourselves and we don't look at the progress that we had throughout the year. I do this myself. I have, especially this year, and many of you probably do too, we have some frustrations that come along with it. And maybe all of the photos we created weren't exactly what we wanted, but there are ways that you grew. There are ways that I grew. I know that. So I want you to be able to identify that so that you can see the changes, the positive changes that you're making in your photography. Whether you are shooting for your small business, your farm, your food blog, whatever the case may be. So what I want you to do is go through these 3 steps with me, and in the end, I'll show you what they represent to help us through this end of year plan and this photography growth plan for the new year. So first of all, I really want you to narrow in on a photo. Pick your favorite photo from the year. And more than that, I want you to truly think about why it's your favorite photo. So this is going to show you the one thing that you accomplished in your photography this year. And I have some notes here, so you're going to see me looking down just a little bit. Why do you consider the photo a success? It could be things like maybe the image is exactly what you had in your head and you just nailed it, and that is the reason. Or maybe it took you 10 to 15 minutes to style it versus 2 hours and 50 shots and snaps to actually get the image you wanted. That can mean that you are becoming more efficient in your photography. And was it a complicated lighting situation and you successfully controlled it? Well, you are probably better understanding your photography space. Does the styling and the layout, does it just make you smile? Well, you are creating more of the images that you love. And then is it just the right depth of field? Or maybe you got a bit technical and more complicated this year and you're capturing movement. Well, that means you're becoming more comfortable with your gear. There are so many ways to look at a photo and see what you accomplished for this year. In addition to breaking down that successful photo, I want you to think about all those skills and tasks that go along with your photography. Maybe there are things you've become more proficient in. So did you better understand an editing skill this year? Or, are you editing more quickly? Are you choosing props that are actually fully aligned with your style and ones that aren't just sitting on your shelf and you'll actually use? And do you better understand the style that most resonates with you? These little things, sometimes we just think about the photos, but all of these things are equally worthy of celebration at the end of the year. So think about those as well. Now, did you take any photos this year that made you cringe? Or did you have any photo experiences this year that made you cringe? Why? And what needs work? What is this telling you? So I'll give you my example. With all of the changes we had, I'm used to remote photography and remote art direction, but most of my clients are very hands-off. And this year I had some very hands-on remote art direction and live video feeds in the studio, and I was not happy with the images that resulted. But what it gave me was loads and loads of knowledge that I'm going to be able to take to the next time I have to do that, to the next experience, and help me navigate it much more smoothly. So we always learn from these little mistakes. And in so many instances, I just think these cringeworthy experiences are so worth it, because in my own experience, I have grown so much from all of these little mistakes. Maybe it was something, maybe you photographed for other people and it was something that you didn't have in your contract, and now you've learned you need to put it in there. Or maybe you're photographing for your farm or small business, and your timeline and your planning just wasn't there to capture the photos that you need. We learn from these and we grow. So make sure that you think about those cringeworthy experiences as much as we don't want to, and think about what you can learn from them. And now, kind of the fun part is, what do you dream of doing well? What is that one thing, that one style or type of photo that you want to capture? List out the practice, the learning, or the tool that you need so that you can accomplish this next year. So maybe it's styling better baskets of a produce or product, or capturing moody light. Maybe you really want to capture beautiful moody images. Figuring out a better workflow, or with Lightroom or some other editing platform. Or maybe you just want to improve your storage system for your files and getting that kind of thing organized. These are all parts of our photography. Maybe you want better close-up and macros, or full table scenes. This time next year, what would you want your number one that we talked about to be? What do you want to look at an image and know that you accomplished that for that next year? What is going to be the number one? So think about that dream and what you can accomplish in your photos, and more importantly, the steps that you need to take to get there. And then another thing that I want you to think about that is related to this is, are things changing for you? Because that is perfectly okay, and you need to embrace it. In addition just to the changes in general this year, do you find that you're outgrowing your style that you've had for a while, or you're finding different interests? Are you outgrowing your current gear? And do you wish that maybe you were photographing different things, maybe in a different way? You need to allow yourself to grow and change. And I'm in this situation right now too. I'll be honest with you. I am finding myself much more drawn. I've always been drawn to on-farm shots and, produce and things as they are growing and as they are being harvested. I've always been drawn to that. But what I'm finding is that I'm much more drawn to that than I am to, heavily styled and intricately styled foods in a studio. I feel like when we target ourselves as, say, food or beverage photographers, or, we put those labels on ourselves, then we kind of identify these series of steps that we need to get better at and accomplish to serve that field. And maybe you don't want to do that. The step with food photography, a lot of times it's like you start with more styled close-ups, and then you do more big, table scenes or really elaborately styled things. And then you get super fancy and you start doing splashes and steam and all that. And we feel like we need to get to that point. And I've had to take a step back and think, I don't really care if I never master the splash. I have fun practicing, but I'm feeling myself being pulled in a different direction in what lights me up and what makes me feel creative and inspired. So really be open to what is making you feel more creative, because that is one thing that we need more than anything right now. Is if you're anything like me, you've kind of suffered a little bit this year with creative flow and inspiration. So take a step back and really evaluate what keeps you creative or would make you more creative, and really go for that and stop worrying about what you feel like you need to be doing for the type of work that you're trying to create. Now, to bring this all together, what this does, these 3 steps in answering these questions that I've talked to you about today, is that you're going to be proud and you're going to celebrate it. We have to do that. We have to look at how far we've come in our images, even just in 1 year, and the changes that we've made, so that we can be positive and happy about that, because you have made changes, I promise you. And you may have made a few mistakes too, but we learn from those mistakes and we bring those back to our work and back to our photos, so that we just keep getting better and better. And then make your plan to grow. You're always going to be growing in your photography work, whether you're shooting for your business, your blog, whatever the case may be. You're always going to be getting better. You're always going to be evolving, but we need to have a little bit of a plan and understanding about where we want to go. So make sure you verbalize or write down those dreams that you're thinking about and those things you want to create so you can make that plan to get there. So I hope this has helped you just kind of had a more positive outlook on your photography for this year, for 2020. And I wish you all the best and more creative images in 2021.